Shocking betrayal. From friends to foes, the fallout of Logan Paul and CM Punk. WWE just destroyed the most compelling storyline they've built in years, and I am absolutely seething right now. After weeks of watching Logan Paul and CM Punk develop what seemed like a genuine, nuanced friendship that was breaking down barriers between the old guard and new generation, WWE threw it all in the garbage for the most predictable, lazy, paint-by-numbers betrayal angle that proves they learned nothing from their past mistakes. Logan Paul turned on CM Punk last night in a segment so telegraphed, so uninspired, and so creatively bankrupt that it makes me question whether anyone in that writer's room has an original thought left in their heads. But here's what's going to make your blood boil: this wasn't a creative decision made because it's what's best for the story. This betrayal happened because of backstage politics involving people who have nothing to do with this feud, and when I reveal who actually forced this direction and why, you're going to understand exactly how broken WWE's creative process really is in 2025. Let me paint the picture of what we lost with this betrayal, because that's what makes this so infuriating. For the past month, we've been watching something genuinely special develop between Logan and Punk. It started rocky. Punk didn't trust Logan, Logan was trying to prove himself, there was natural tension. But slowly, grudgingly, they started respecting each other. Logan showed Punk that he's not just a celebrity tourist, that he actually studies wrestling, that he respects the business. Punk showed Logan what it means to have longevity in this industry, what it takes to be more than just a moment. We were watching a mentorship form, something rare and beautiful in modern WWE, where everyone's either best friends or bitter enemies with no in-between. They had that incredible tag match 2 weeks ago where they actually worked together, and it was magic. The contrast of styles, the way Punk would direct traffic and Logan would execute, the chemistry was undeniable. Commentary was selling it as this unexpected partnership that was growing into something real. Social media was eating it up. You had hardcore wrestling fans saying, "Okay, I actually buy Logan as a wrestler now," and Logan's fans discovering CM Punk for the first time. It was bringing two different audiences together. It was creating new fans for wrestling. And WWE just threw all of that away so they could do the same tired betrayal angle they've done 1,000 times before. Here's my first question, and I want you to really think about this: when was the last time WWE had the patience to let a complex relationship develop organically over months instead of rushing to a betrayal? Can you even remember one? Drop your examples below. So here's what happened last night, and I want you to appreciate just how lazy this was. Punk and Logan are backstage, they're talking strategy for their upcoming match. There's actual genuine camaraderie between them. Punk says something like, "You've earned my respect, kid," a huge moment for Logan's character. Logan thanks him, says Punk taught him what it means to be a real wrestler. It's a nice moment. Too nice. And then Logan's phone rings. He looks at it, his expression changes, and he tells Punk he'll catch up with him later. Red flag number 1, because WWE can't do subtlety anymore. Cut to later in the show. Punk is in the ring addressing the crowd, talking about how he's been wrong about Logan, how the new generation deserves more credit than he gave them. He's extending an olive branch to everyone he's been critical of. It's character growth, something we rarely see in WWE. And then Logan's music hits. Logan walks out, and everyone in the arena is wondering, is he coming to join Punk? Is he going to add to what Punk is saying? The crowd is actually invested in this moment because the story has been built well. Logan gets in the ring. They're face to face. Punk extends his hand, a callback to when this all started. Logan looks at the hand, looks at Punk, and super kicks him right in the jaw. Brass knuckles to the skull while Punk is down. Logan stands over Punk's body and cuts a promo about how he used Punk, how he never needed a has-been to validate him, how CM Punk was just a stepping stone to Logan's real goal. And then, because WWE can never resist making everything about factions, the Vision's music hits and they welcome Logan like we saw coming from a mile away. Question for everyone: on a scale of 1 to 10, how shocked were you by this betrayal? Did anyone not see this coming? Be honest in the comments about whether WWE fooled you even slightly. Here's why this is so frustrating: the story they were telling was more interesting than the story they pivoted to. A genuine friendship between Logan and Punk would have been groundbreaking. Imagine them as a tag team for 6 months, winning the tag titles, defending them against all comers. Imagine the character development for both of them: Logan learning the psychology and storytelling that Punk excels at, Punk reconnecting with his passion for wrestling through Logan's fresh enthusiasm. Imagine the eventual breakup happening naturally because their goals diverge, not because of a scripted betrayal moment. That would have been different. That would have been memorable. That would have been something we'd talk about for years as an example of WWE telling a mature, complex story about an unlikely friendship. Instead, we got the same betrayal angle we've seen with every faction, every mentor/student relationship, every temporary alliance in WWE history. It's lazy, it's predictable, and it's a waste of both performers' talents. But here's where it gets really maddening, and this is the part that's going to make you furious. According to multiple backstage sources, the original plan was to keep Logan and Punk as allies for several more months. The creative team had mapped out a whole arc where they'd team together, win matches, build genuine chemistry, and the friendship would be a long-term story element. But that plan got vetoed by someone high up in management, and I'm hearing it was someone with creative control who felt that Logan needed to be with the Vision right now because they're desperate to make that faction feel important after it's been floundering for weeks. So creative's long-term storytelling got thrown out the window because of short-term faction politics. Logan's character development got sacrificed because someone decided the Vision needed a buzz injection. The Punk/Logan relationship that was actually working and creating new fans got destroyed because somebody wanted a shocking moment for social media. This is WWE in 2025. Long-term planning means nothing when someone upstairs decides they need a rating spike or a trending topic this week. Let me ask you something, would you rather watch complex, slow-building relationships that feel real, or do you prefer shocking betrayals every few weeks even if they're predictable and damage character development? What creates more value for you? Now let's talk about what this does to Logan Paul's character, because this might be the most frustrating part. Logan was finally getting over as someone the hardcore audience could respect. He'd proven himself in multiple great matches. He was showing genuine respect for the business. He was humble in his promos about learning from veterans. The audience was coming around on him, not everyone, but enough that he wasn't getting pure rejection anymore. He was becoming a legitimate wrestler, not just a celebrity attraction. And now he's just another heel who betrayed someone for power. He's the same character as a dozen other WWE heels. There's nothing unique about him anymore except his social media following. All the goodwill he'd built up with the wrestling audience just evaporated in one segment. The casuals who follow Logan will think it's cool, but the hardcore fans who were finally accepting him are going to reject him all over again. WWE just reset Logan's character development to zero for a moment that will be forgotten in 3 weeks. What was the point of spending a month building the Logan/Punk friendship if you were just going to destroy it for a predictable heel turn? Why waste everyone's time with character development you had no intention of following through on? This is why WWE fans are so cynical. We get invested in stories, and then WWE pulls the rug out for shock value without any consideration for what we've invested in emotionally. Trivia question: Logan Paul has had several high-profile matches in WWE. Can you name his opponent at Crown Jewel 2022, which many consider his best match? Let's test your knowledge in the comments. Now let's discuss CM Punk's side of this, because he got screwed twice. First, his character just got made to look like an idiot. CM Punk, the guy who's been in wrestling for 20 years, who prides himself on being able to read people, who's cynical and distrustful by nature, got completely fooled by Logan Paul. The same CM Punk who spent weeks being suspicious of Logan suddenly became so trusting that he never saw this betrayal coming? That's not character consistency, that's character assassination to serve as a plot twist. Second, Punk's entire message about giving the new generation a chance just got undermined. He extended an olive branch, tried to be the veteran leader the locker room needs, showed growth and maturity, and it blew up in his face. What's the lesson here? That Punk was right to be cynical and distrustful? That he should never give young talent the benefit of the doubt? That's a terrible message to send, and it makes Punk's character regress instead of progress. He's going to go back to being the bitter, angry veteran who hates everyone, which is exactly where he was 6 months ago. We've gone in a circle and accomplished nothing. And from a pure storytelling perspective, this robs us of the real drama that was coming. The interesting story was watching Punk and Logan navigate their friendship while having different goals and values. The tension of can this friendship survive when they eventually have conflicting interests was compelling. We didn't need a betrayal, we needed a natural evolution where they realize they can't stay aligned forever but they part with mutual respect. That would have been mature storytelling. Instead, we got shock value garbage. Here's a question for the longtime fans: has CM Punk's character actually developed at all since he returned to WWE, or has he just been spinning his wheels in the same angry veteran role with no real growth? I'm genuinely asking. Let's talk about the Vision and how Logan joining makes zero sense for that faction either. The Vision is supposed to be about hand-picked WWE talent representing the future of the company. They're the chosen ones, the next generation, the corporate-backed stable. So why would they want Logan Paul? He's not WWE-developed talent. He's not even a full-time wrestler. He's a part-timer with other business interests who wrestles maybe 4 times a year. How does that fit the Vision's identity at all? Unless the Vision has no identity, which seems increasingly likely. They started as one thing, they've added random members with no clear recruitment criteria, and now they're just the heel faction with no deeper purpose. Logan joining doesn't strengthen the Vision's mission or message, it just adds another name to their roster. And with Drew McIntyre supposedly suspended, in storyline, the faction is already rudderless. Adding Logan doesn't solve any of their actual problems. This is WWE's faction booking in a nutshell. They create groups with vague missions, they add people randomly based on what serves this week's storyline, and they never develop a clear identity or purpose. The Bloodline worked because it had a clear family dynamic and hierarchy. Degeneration X worked because they had a clear anti-authority rebellious identity. Evolution worked because it had a clear past, present, and future concept. What the hell is the Vision's identity? People who work together sometimes for reasons? That's not compelling. Quick poll, can you explain what the Vision stands for and what their goals are without just saying they're the heel faction? If not, that's a problem, right? Let me know if you understand what the Vision is supposed to be. Now here's what's going to happen next, and I'll be thrilled to be wrong. Logan is going to cut generic heel promos about how he used Punk and never needed him. Punk is going to cut passionate promos about betrayal and revenge. They'll have a match at the next pay-per-view, probably a good match because both can work, and then they'll move on to other things. The betrayal will be forgotten. The friendship that was building will be treated like it never mattered. And we'll all be left wondering what could have been if WWE had actually committed to the more interesting story. This is the pattern with WWE, they stumble into something good, the audience responds positively, and then they abandon it for something more conventional and predictable. They had lightning in a bottle with the Punk/Logan dynamic, and they threw it away because someone decided a betrayal would pop a rating. Maybe it will for 1 week, but then what? You've burned through story capital for a temporary spike. That's not sustainable business. Compare this to how other shows handle character relationships. In good television, when you invest time in developing a relationship between characters, that investment pays off over seasons, not weeks. The relationship evolves, it has ups and downs, but it matters throughout the story. WWE treats relationships as disposable plot devices that exist only to set up the next shock moment. That's why nothing ever feels important, because we know it's all temporary and subject to change whenever WWE needs a Twitter trend. Honest question, has WWE ever built a friendship storyline and actually let it play out long-term without a betrayal? Austin and Mankind maybe? Can you think of others? Because I'm struggling to find examples. Let's discuss what this betrayal reveals about WWE's creative philosophy in 2025. They fundamentally don't trust their audience to stay invested without constant shock moments. They don't believe that slow-burn storytelling can maintain interest. They're so obsessed with creating moments for social media that they sacrifice actual narrative coherence. And they're so afraid of being predictable that they make unpredictable choices even when the predictable option is better storytelling. The Punk/Logan friendship was predictable in the sense that we could see where it was going, toward a genuine bond that would deepen both characters. But that's not bad predictability, that's storytelling structure. We want to see where stories are headed so we can anticipate and look forward to big moments. The betrayal was also predictable, but in a bad way. We've seen this exact angle 100 times, so it's predictable because it's lazy and unoriginal. WWE confuses those two types of predictability. They think that avoiding predictable storytelling means constantly swerving and shocking the audience, but that's not true. Good storytelling means setting up expectations and either fulfilling them in satisfying ways or subverting them for good reasons, not just for the sake of being unpredictable. The Logan betrayal is unpredictable only in the sense that continuing the friendship would have been the more interesting choice, but the betrayal itself is the most predictable thing they could have done given WWE's history. Let me ask you, would you rather have predictable storytelling that's well executed and satisfying, or unpredictable storytelling that constantly undermines itself trying to shock you? Which creates better television? Here's what really bothers me about this whole situation: both Logan and Punk are talented enough to make any story work if WWE commits to it. Logan has proven he can go in the ring. Punk is one of the best talkers in wrestling history. Together, they had chemistry that was undeniable. They could have told a story about bridging the generation gap, about mutual respect between old and new, about what wrestling means to different types of performers. That's interesting. That's different. That's something we haven't seen before. Instead, we're getting betrayal leading to a revenge match leading to them moving on to separate feuds. It's the same cycle we've seen countless times. It'll be fine, they'll probably have a good match, but fine isn't good enough when you have the potential for something great. WWE is settling for fine when they could have had great, and that's why so many fans are frustrated with the product despite it being objectively well produced and featuring incredible talent. The talent isn't the problem. The matches aren't the problem. The production isn't the problem. The storytelling is the problem. WWE has forgotten how to tell compelling long-term stories because they're so focused on weekly content creation and moment generation. Everything is short-term thinking. Nothing is allowed to breathe and develop naturally. And when something does start to develop naturally and organically, like the Punk/Logan friendship, WWE can't resist cutting it off early to get to the good part of the betrayal, not realizing that the journey is the good part. Final question before I wrap this up: if you were booking WWE, would you have kept Punk and Logan as allies for longer, or do you think the betrayal was the right call? And if you would have kept them together, what story would you have told? I want to see your creative ideas in the comments. Here's the absolute bottom line. The Logan Paul betrayal of CM Punk is lazy, predictable, and wasteful storytelling that sacrifices long-term character development for a short-term shock moment that nobody was actually shocked by. It takes an interesting, unique relationship and turns it into the same tired betrayal angle we've seen 1,000 times. It makes both characters worse. Logan loses the legitimacy he was building with hardcore fans, and Punk looks like an idiot who learned nothing from his decades in the business. This wasn't a creative decision made because it's what's best for the story. This was a political decision made backstage because someone wanted the vision to feel important and decided Logan needed to join right now rather than letting the Punk story play out. It's emblematic of everything wrong with modern WWE: great talent, great production, terrible long-term storytelling because everything is subject to change based on this week's priorities. Logan Paul and CM Punk could have been special. They could have shown WWE fans that the company is capable of telling mature, complex stories about relationships that don't end in betrayal. They could have created something memorable that we'd talk about for years. Instead, we got a generic heel turn that will be forgotten by next month, and both performers are worse off for it. So yeah, shocking betrayal, from friends to foes, the fallout of Logan Paul and CM Punk. Except there's nothing shocking about it, the friendship barely had time to develop before it was destroyed, and the fallout is going to be a predictable revenge storyline that wastes both men's talents. That's your WWE in 2025, capable of greatness, but usually settling for mediocrity because someone upstairs can't resist pushing the reset button just when things are getting interesting. And if you're not angry about this creative direction, if you're just accepting it as that's how WWE works, then you're part of the reason they'll never improve. We deserve better storytelling. These performers deserve better material. And this friendship deserved a chance to actually mean something before it was thrown away for the sake of a moment that nobody will remember by the time we get to the Royal Rumble.